You would have smelled them before you saw them. Not because they didn't care, because for most of human history, the one thing you're using right now to get clean simply did not exist. No soap bar, no shampoo bottle, no hand wash by the sink, just water, sometimes not even that. And yet, somehow, humans survived. Civilizations rose. Empires spread across continents. Entire cities were built, all without a single bar of soap. So how did they do it? What did people actually use to get clean? For tens of thousands of years, before soap ever existed, the answer starts somewhere you would never expect. Go back far enough, and the very first cleaning method wasn't a method at all. It was just water, rivers, lakes, rain. Early humans rinsed off dirt and sweat the same way animals do. Simple, free, but barely effective against grease, oil, and grime that clung to skin. There was a problem hiding in that water, though. Cold water alone doesn't break down oil, and oil is exactly what builds up on human skin every single day. So humans needed something else, something that could cut through grease. And the first real answer came from somewhere completely unexpected. Ash. Would ash, rubbed directly onto wet skin, worked as a rough abrasive. It scraped away dirt the way sand does. Mixed with a little water, it even created a mild alkaline paste. Harsh, but strangely effective at cutting through oil. In Egypt, people took this a step further. They combined ash with animal or vegetable oils to create a paste used almost exactly the way we use soap today, rubbed on, then rinsed off. Egyptian medical texts, thousands of years old, actually describe this exact mixture being used for both skin conditions and general washing. But here's where it gets strange. That mixture, ash plus fat, is technically the same basic chemical reaction that creates soap. Fat plus alkali equals soap. The Egyptians may have accidentally stumbled onto real soap chemistry, thousands of years before anyone called it soap. So if the ingredients existed that early, why did it take thousands more years for soap to actually become a normal, everyday product? The answer is, it wasn't seen as a cleaning product at first at all. The earliest confirmed soap-like substance comes from ancient Babylon, around 2800 BCE. Archaeologists found clay tablets and containers with a substance made from boiled fats and ash, but historical evidence suggests it wasn't primarily used on human bodies. It was used on wool and textile fibers, to prepare them for weaving. The thing sitting in your shower right now may have started out as a fabric treatment, not a hygiene product. And it wasn't the only civilization solving this same problem, completely independently, thousands of miles away. In South Asia, ancient texts describe a paste called ubtan, made from ground chickpea flour, turmeric, and other herbs, mixed with water or milk into a scrub. It didn't foam like soap, but it lifted dirt and oil off skin, and it's still used in parts of India today, thousands of years later, largely unchanged. Across the ocean, in Mesoamerica, the Aztecs had their own answer entirely, one that grew straight out of the ground. The soap bark tree, called Copalxicatl, and a root called amole, both contain natural compounds called saponins, which foam and lather almost exactly like manufactured soap when crushed and mixed with water. No factory, no chemistry lab, just a plant that happened to do the job on its own. In West Africa, a different plant-based solution emerged, one still sold worldwide today. What's now known as African black soap was traditionally made by drying and roasting plantain skins, cocoa pods, and palm leaves into ash, then combining that ash with oils like shea or coconut. The exact same fat plus alkali reaction, discovered independently, on a different continent. For civilizations, no contact with each other, all arriving at some version of the same chemistry. Meanwhile, actual human bathing culture was taking a completely different path. In ancient Rome, cleanliness became almost a public event. Massive bathhouses opened across the empire, filled with steam rooms, hot pools, and cold plunge pools. But Romans didn't scrub in with soap. They used something else entirely. Oil. Bathers coated their skin in olive oil, then used a curved metal tool called a strigil to physically scrape the oil off, along with the dirt, sweat, and dead skin trapped inside it. It wasn't washing in the way we think of it. It was closer to peeling grime off the body in one motion. This method worked. It genuinely worked. And for centuries, it was considered advanced hygiene, a public ritual, something citizens did together, not alone. Then something happened that changed everything, and not in a good way. As the Roman Empire collapsed, so did its bathing culture. And in medieval Europe, something unexpected took over: fear. During plague outbreaks, some physicians believed that hot water opened the pores and let disease straight into the body. Bathing, once a public ritual, suddenly became something people avoided on purpose. Instead, cleanliness shifted to something else entirely: perfume. Wealthier Europeans masked body odor with heavy scented oils and powders instead of washing it away. For a period of history, smelling clean and being clean quietly became two completely different things. And just when you'd expect soap to slowly fix this problem in Europe, something else got in the way. Not disease, not superstition, money. In England, soap eventually became so associated with cleanliness and status that the government placed a heavy tax directly on it. For well over a century, soap became something only the wealthy could afford regularly, while ordinary families were priced out of the exact product that could have protected them from disease. Historians have directly linked this soap tax to worse public health outcomes in poorer communities, until the tax was finally repealed and the 1800s. Entire population kept dirtier by policy, not by ignorance. But while Europe pulled away from bathing, other parts of the world never stopped. In the Islamic world, regular washing wasn't just common, it was a religious requirement, tied directly to daily prayer. Public bathhouses called hammams thrived across the Middle East and North Africa, combining steam, scrubbing, and washing into a structured daily ritual, centuries before Europe would return to anything similar. And this is the part almost nobody expects. Plant-based soap wasn't some crude ancient substance. In parts of the Middle East, soap makers were producing refined, hardened bars using olive oil, water, and an alkaline ash called soda ash, in a process shockingly close to how soap is still made by hand today. Aleppo soap, one of the oldest branded soap products in history, is believed to trace back over 1,000 years. And versions of it are still sold today, almost unchanged. So real, modern-style soap already existed, hundreds of years before most of Europe would fully accept the idea of regular bathing again. It would take one more turning point to make soap a true global, everyday habit: the Industrial Revolution. Factories made mass production possible for the first time in history. Soap, once handmade in small batches or taxed into luxury status, could suddenly be manufactured, packaged, and sold on a massive scale. Prices dropped, availability exploded. For the first time, soap wasn't a symbol of wealth. It was something almost anyone could own. And then came the piece that changed hygiene forever. Not luxury, not religion, not culture, but science. In the 1800s, germ theory proved something people had never fully understood. Invisible microorganisms caused disease, and washing hands and skin could physically remove them. Suddenly, doctors, hospitals, and eventually entire governments began pushing handwashing as a matter of survival, not politeness. For the first time in human history, cleanliness wasn't about smell, status, or fear. It was about survival, backed by evidence. From ash rubbed onto wet skin, to a foaming root pulled straight out of Mesoamerican soil, to a fabric treatment that accidentally became a hygiene product, to soap bars still made the same way over 1,000 years later, one truth stays exactly the same: humans were never actually trying to smell nice. We were trying to survive against something we couldn't even see, using whatever the ground around us happened to provide. And maybe that's the real story hiding behind every bar of soap sitting quietly in your bathroom right now. If you like seeing how something this ordinary took thousands of years, for continents, and one very strange tax law to fully figure out, watch the next video, where we trace how humans went from complete silence to modern language.